Well, we had a red day today. Hey, fellow traders, it's Black Coffee Trader. It is Wednesday, FOMC day, September the 17th. And it looks a little bit worse because I've got 19 accounts, but we are down 23.12 on the day. Really trading in this range on the, let me get my cursor over here, trading in this range on the Dow Jones, basically right in here. Hindsight, I basically traded a range that probably shouldn't have traded. So, but anyway, let's just dive in. In fact, I think we'll just go to TradeZella first and look at that. So here's today, 23.12. We had 3 trades, all losers, average of $40 of a loss per trade. So we are basically down a net about an average of 120 per account. We are down on the week, which is not great, but it is what it is. Let's look at our weekly numbers here this week. So down more than I like, not quite at 38.5 average winner, 40.7 on the average loser, 37% win rate. On the month, we are still green by a decent little margin, but let's see what the stats are on the month. 3,000, 41% win rate. 1.7, so the average winner is almost 70, the average loser just over 40. So anyway, you're going to have red days. Unfortunately, had a bigger red day today, but yeah, again, 20 accounts or 19 accounts, and really not that bad per account, $100 or so. So it's not that big of a deal. But that was today. I think I'll just talk through the trades themselves rather than diving into all my notes on TradeZella. Maybe I should just show you. This is what I do. For those of you, if you're new here, this is how I do things in TradeZella. I'll record the trades. I'll come in here, put my playbook in here. This is a break and retest. This was my profit target and my stop loss originally set. So initial profit target, if I would have hit, would have been 81. The loss 47. As it was, this was a basically a break-even stop out. So I'll put a note in here, another break and retest of prior day high after the FOMC press conference, move up to take profit 1, and then rangy, got stopped out break even. And it's kind of the long and the short of really what happened there today. So anyway, I do like it. I really like TradeZella from a journaling perspective. I can go into each and every trade, and I can look at that in detail. I can look at the next trade. I mean, obviously, copy trading all of my accounts, so it looks like there's a ton of trades, but there's, this is all the same trade, copy traded. So I can select this one, and we can see here that this as well was a break and retest trade. This was my profit targets. This was my planned win, the loss if I get stopped out, what the trade actually was, in my note, and you can see the entry. So again, I take this just by taking a quick snippet. But anyway, so let's dive into the trades themselves. So this morning, part of today is not so much that I had 3 smaller losing trades on the day, but the fact of the missed opportunity. This morning, I was looking at the Russell and the Dow. Both Russell and the Dow were pushing higher, and the NASDAQ and the ES were falling down lower. So you can see, moves to the downside on ES and on the NASDAQ, but then Russell and the Dow Jones were pushing higher. And as this moved higher, and I saw this coming down into this prior day high area on the Russell, I thought, man, I should probably jump in and take that. Break and retests of prior day highs and prior day lows have done very, very, very well for me if I look at my notes. And taking a trade here should have and could have resulted in a absolute bomber of a trade today. I probably could have gotten out of this trade. Entry here, first profit, my stop loss would have been right below prior day high. There would have been first profit target. I likely would have added at some point. I would have taken the second one here. Probably would have added somewhere in here and could have taken a couple more profit targets here. So that could have been a easily been a $200, $250 trade had I taken that shot. And I looked at it and I thought about taking it, and I felt, man, I'm going to look at the Dow, because if the Dow, or I was watching the Dow and watching this. I have a separate screen where I've got all 4 of the indices. So I've got the NASDAQ, the ES, the Dow Jones, and the Russell on a different computer monitor, so I can watch all of the charts at the same time. So on my main trading chart, I had the Dow Jones pulled up, and I was watching the Russell on the other charts and thinking, I'm going to wait and see if this sets up. So, because this is what I was looking at this morning on the Dow Jones. On the Dow at the open, we had this massive rip up or push higher. And I was watching that thinking, man, if this thing retests prior day high with this powerful rip to the upside, that may be a better trade to get into as opposed to the Russell trade. And I was just wrong. The Russell would have been the better one to get into, but we'll just dive into them. So here was the first trade, took the long here. And the problem with this one here, I got stopped out. I did move my stop loss down a little bit as we started to fall down to retest this area again. I thought, well, maybe I just need to give it a little more wiggle room. I should have given it a lot more wiggle room. But the warning signs should have been 1, 2, 3. We had a triple top high and a rejection, and that's probably where I made the mistake. What I should have done is, as this rejected for the 3rd time, I should have just got out of this trade at break even and took a very, very small loss instead of taking the $60 loss that I took. So that was maybe a bit of a mistake there. And the culprit here to this price action really was the fact that the NASDAQ was pushing down. The NASDAQ was not pretty. NASDAQ was not pretty this morning. If you look at the NAS this morning, this is during that time frame. We had this big slow grind to the downside on the NASDAQ, and this is when I was in this trade here. And obviously the move wasn't nearly as big on the Dow Jones, but we did have to absorb that selling pressure from the NASDAQ market. And so that's what took me out of the trade. And because of the triple top rejection, the NASDAQ pulling back, I probably should have. I thought about it. I thought about just killing the trade break even and waiting for a better entry. It's what I should have done. I would have saved myself about a $60 loss. Moving to the next trade, we then, as you can see, it basically took me out, chopped through this area and then pushed right back up, a strong push higher, and I just decided to get back in. I got back in, definitely not sad about that. Got to my first profit target here, and then I was only in with 2 contracts, and I was like, I'm not going to try to add. I'm just going to see if I can get out with, maybe get to break even on the day. And I had another target somewhere up here around the 80s. I had to leave, after this profit target got hit. So I just left my stop right here below the prior day low or prior day high, and I just left. And when I came back, I was like, well, either I'm going to get stopped out break even, or I'll get to my second profit target and we'll be green on the day by a small margin. I got back and we were somewhere in this area right in here. And we had made this high and we were starting to see a little bit of a grind to the downside. And I thought, well, I'm going to leave it on. I'm going to leave it on because here we held, and we continued to bounce off of this level. And I thought, well, we're just going to do this again, and we'll bounce back higher. And there were several indications there that was going to happen. I actually left my desk again and walked away, and I came back, and we were all the way down here. We made this little move. In fact, let me just zoom in here a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. We made this little move, pushed higher, and then I decided I'm going to add. I decided to add a couple of contracts. So I added 2 contracts basically at the same entry point, thinking, hey, we're going to have a little retest of this area. We're going to push back up. Well, that never occurred. We just continued to fall apart and ended up taking another $60-some loss on that trade. So a little bit disappointed if I didn't add. If I don't add here, I'm out break even, and we're down the $60 initially. So hindsight is 20/20. The other thing I could have done is here when I returned, I could have just closed this trade. In a sense, I kind of wish I would have, but then again, I really was hoping to get to this next profit target. I was that close, and I just thought, well, maybe we can get there, and it didn't happen. So anyway, then after FOMC and the whole FOMC movement today, if you look at all of the indices, it really was a non-factor. I mean, we on the Dow Jones, here's where we got the news, the rate cut news, and then we had the press conference, and we closed the day, somewhere right here. So this whole gibberish here was just nothing. We wasted all this time to really go nowhere, and that's pretty much the case if you look at all of them. The Russell, very much the same. I mean, the Russell, we opened right there was or FOMC, and then we closed. We closed a little bit lower, but really not much. Very similar on the Dow Jones ES and also the Nasdaq. So let's get the Nasdaq over where we can see it. So yeah, really kind of a sideways. I mean, right here we have the NAS, and we closed here. So NAS closed up a little bit, but really, by and large, it was pretty much a non-factor. So going back to the Dow Jones, and after this movement, and I was watching the price action, I just never really got a good trade with the volatility that I really liked, and we got back above this prior day high. And I thought, man, I might just have to take a shot here and see what happens. So took the long here end of the day, got the first profit target, and we just simply went range bound. And I could have got out here at a 1R, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to hold. I really wanted to move up to here, or a pop end of day. Just never occurred. And so I just left it go, and I finally got stopped out break even. So that last trade was about an $8 loss after commissions. And honestly, as stupid as it may sound to some of you, I almost would prefer this. I am completely comfortable with this trade. I am completely comfortable with it. I'm totally fine with taking that loss. It doesn't do anything to my drawdown to speak of. And I would rather absorb a break-even loss like this than if I would have taken this trade off right here, and I would have been out with like a $40 trade. Nothing crazy. And if I would have done that and this market does this, I would have been really, really, really upset with myself. And that's actually a trigger for me. So I am better off to let the trade work and see if I can get out with some profit. If not, if I get stopped out break even, we move on and we live for another day. So it's just how I roll. Not saying that that's right, but that's how I roll. That's how I trade, and that's what works for me. So that's why we do it. But anyway, so that's a long and the short of today. As far as the accounts themselves, basically we are down around $80 to $140 per account on the week, which is really not bad. So yeah, it looks big because we had a $2,000 red day, but that's just because I've got 19 funded accounts. So we have one good trade or one good day here towards the end of the week. We can make all that back and then some. So I'm not really worried about it. So anyway, that's that. I think we'll leave you with that, and we'll be back at it tomorrow. Hopefully this market does something in our favor and we can find a good setup and find a good trade and get back on the green side. So, all right, once again, thanks. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for following along. Thanks for using code BCT where applicable, and appreciate your support. So hope you guys had a good day today. Hope you had a good trading session if you traded FOMC or the press conference thereafter. But in any case, we'll be back at it tomorrow. So until next time, take care and so long.